Maggie Dawson's hands were still caked with grave dirt when the stranger rode out of the blizzard and offered $400 for her hand in marriage. $400. The exact amount to bury her father proper and keep Wade Cooper from taking everything else. The whole town would call her desperate. They'd whisper she'd sold herself to a mountain hermit with nothing but worn boots and 6 motherless children waiting in some godforsaken valley. They didn't know anything. This is her story. Stay until the end. Hit that subscribe button and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this tale travels. The shovel hit frozen ground and Maggie's arm screamed. She didn't stop. Couldn't stop. 3 feet down. Maybe 4. Her father deserved 6, deserved a proper Christian burial with a pine box and a preacher's words. But the ground was frozen solid, and her back was breaking, and nobody in this whole godforsaken town had offered to help. Not one soul. She swung again. The impact rattled up through her bones. "You're going to kill yourself doing that." Maggie didn't turn around. She knew that voice, knew it the way a rabbit knows a rattlesnake. "Go away, Mr. Cooper." Wade Cooper's boots crunched through the snow behind her. Closer. Always closer. "Your father owed me $287, Miss Dawson, plus interest. That's $312 now." "He's dead." Maggie's voice came out flat, empty. "You can't collect from a dead man." "No, but I can collect from his daughter." She turned then. Wade Cooper stood at the edge of the grave. She was digging his coat too fine for this weather, his boots too clean for this mud. He was thin, precise, the kind of man who counted every penny and every slight, and never forgot either one. His eyes traveled over her slowly. Maggie's grip tightened on the shovel. "I ain't got your money." "I know." He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "But you've got something else I want." "I'd rather freeze to death." "That can be arranged." He stepped closer. "Winter's coming hard, Miss Dawson. No money, no home, no family. How long do you think you'll last?" "Longer than you'd like." Wade laughed. Soft, controlled. More frightening than if he'd shouted. "I admire your spirit. I truly do. It's one of the reasons I want you." He pulled papers from his coat. "You have until December 15th. That's 12 days. Pay the debt or marry me. Those are your only options. There's always a third option." "And what's that?" Maggie met his eyes. "I could bash your head in with this shovel and bury you right next to my pa." Something flickered in Wade's face. Not fear exactly. Calculation. "You're not a killer, Miss Dawson. You don't know what I am." They stared at each other across her father's open grave. Wade broke first. He tucked the papers back into his coat and touched his hat brim in a mockery of courtesy. 12 days. I'll be back." He walked away. Maggie watched until he disappeared around the corner of the church. Then she turned back to the grave and kept digging. The tears came somewhere around the 5th foot. She didn't try to stop them. The funeral was at dawn. Reverend Whitaker came because Maggie asked, though she had nothing to pay him with. He stood in the snow with his Bible open, his breath fogging in the cold, and spoke words that were supposed to mean something. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Maggie barely heard them. She was thinking about her mother dead these 10 years now, buried somewhere along the Oregon Trail in a grave they'd never find again. She was thinking about the promises her father made. "I'll take care of you, Maggie girl. I'll always take care of you." And how death made liars of the best men. She was thinking about Wade Cooper. 12 days. "Miss Dawson." She blinked. The Reverend was looking at her expectantly. "Would you like to say a few words?" Maggie looked at the plain wooden box at the bottom of the grave. Inside it, her father's body lay wrapped in the quilt her mother had made 20 years ago. The only thing of value they had left. "He was a good man," she said. "He tried his best. That's more than most can say." She picked up a handful of frozen dirt and let it fall. The sound it made hitting the wood was the loneliest thing she'd ever heard. The stranger came 3 days later. Maggie was chopping wood when she heard the hoofbeats. Slow, steady, wrong somehow. She straightened, axe still in hand. The rider materialized out of the snow like something from a fever dream. Tall. That was the first thing she noticed. Tall and broad-shouldered, sitting his horse like he'd been born there. His clothes were worn canvas coat patched at the elbows, wool trousers gone thin at the knees. Nothing about him suggested money or comfort. But the way he carried himself. Maggie's grip tightened on the axe. He stopped at the edge of the property. Didn't push closer. Just sat there studying the cabin, the woodpile her. "Miss Margaret Dawson." She didn't answer. "Out here you didn't confirm nothing to strangers." The man nodded like he understood. "Fair enough. Name's Silas Brennan. I rode down from the high country looking for you specifically." "Why?" "Because I got a proposition. One that might solve problems for both of us." He paused. "May I get down from this horse, ma'am?" Maggie considered. He'd kept his distance. Asked permission. That was something. "Fine. But this axe stays where it is." Something flickered across his face. Might have been amusement. "I'd expect nothing less." He dismounted and removed his hat. His hair was dark, shot through with gray at the temples. Too much gray for a man who couldn't be past 35. His eyes were the color of storm clouds, and when they met hers, they didn't waver. "I'll speak plain," he said. "I know your situation. Know about the debts your father's passing Cooper's proposal. I know you're running out of time. You've been watching me. Observing." He didn't apologize. "I also know you turned Cooper down when saying yes would have solved your problems. That tells me about your character. What do you want, Mr. Brennan?" He took a breath. Something shifted in his face, the mask of composure slipping just enough to show the exhaustion underneath. "I got a ranch up in the high country. Cattle operation, Hidden Valley. Isolated but profitable." He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded paper. "I also got 6 children." Maggie's stomach dropped. 6? Samuel's 14. Thomas is 12. William's 10. Mary's 8. Little Sarah's 5. And baby James just turned 3. His voice went rough. "Their mother died birthing James. I ain't done right by them since. They need someone. Someone strong. Patient. Someone who don't scare easy. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you marriage." The word landed between them like a stone. "You want to marry me?" Maggie heard her own voice from far away. "We've never met." "I know enough." He held out the paper. Bank draft. $400. Enough to clear your debts, bury your father proper, and leave money for his headstone. His eyes held hers. "Marry me. Come to the ranch. Help me raise my children. The money's yours either way, whether this works or not." Maggie's mind was racing, trying to find the trick, the trap. Why marriage? You could hire a governess, a housekeeper. Governesses quit. Housekeepers leave. His jaw tightened. My children have lost enough people. They need someone who can't just walk away when things get hard. So you want to trap me? I want to offer you a contract. A fair one. He stepped closer. Not threatening. Earnest. Desperate in his own way. You'll have your own room, your own space. I ain't looking for that kind of marriage. Not unless we both want it someday. I'm looking for a partner. Why me? Maggie demanded. Why specifically me? Because I watched you tell Wade Cooper you'd rather freeze than marry him. Because you're still standing in front of your father's cabin with an axe in your hand instead of running. He stopped, swallowed. Because my children need someone who won't break. And you don't look like you break easy, Miss Dawson. Maggie stared at him. At the worn clothes and the tired eyes and the set of his jaw that said he'd carry this weight whether she helped or not. Your wife, she said slowly. How did she really die? Pain crossed his face. Raw, immediate. Like I said, childbirth. The doctor was 2 days' ride. I went for him myself, rode through the night. His voice cracked. By the time we got back, James was alive. Catherine was not. You blame yourself. Every damn day. He didn't look away. I couldn't save her. Can't give my children their mama back. But I can give them someone who might help them remember how to be a family. Maggie thought about her father in that narrow box. About Wade Cooper's smile. About the fence posts she'd counted through the window her whole life, each one marking the edge of a world that kept shrinking. I need to think, she said. I'll wait. How long? However long it takes. Craig. She went back inside, sat on the edge of her father's empty bed, tried to make sense of what was happening. 6 children. The youngest was 3. The oldest was 14. A house full of motherless children who'd already lost everything that mattered. What would Pa say? She could almost hear his voice, rough from the coughing that killed him, but steady underneath. He'd say to be brave. He always said that. She looked around the cabin, this place that had been her whole world for 11 years. The crooked table her father built, the sampler her mother stitched before she died, the window where she'd stood 1,000 times watching the road waiting for something to change. Nothing ever changed, until now. Maggie stood up, walked to the door, opened it. Silas Brennan was exactly where she'd left him. Snow had piled on his shoulders, his hat, but he hadn't moved. You didn't take shelter, she said. You didn't say I could. She almost smiled. I got conditions. Name them. My father gets a proper headstone. I choose the words. Done. I write to this town as often as I want. Keep track of what's happening. Make sure Wade Cooper don't hurt nobody else. Agreed. And this marriage. Maggie stopped in front of him, close enough to see the snowflakes caught in his dark hair. It's a partnership, not ownership. You don't control me. Don't make choices for me. Don't treat me like property. Something shifted in Silas's face. I had a real marriage once, Miss Dawson. I know the difference between a wife and a possession. He held out his hand. You have my word. Maggie looked at it. Work roughened, steady, real. There's one more thing. Name it. Your children. Tell me about them. Really tell me. Silas's hand dropped. For a moment he looked away toward mountains she couldn't see through the snow. Samuel's the oldest, 14. He thinks he's a man, now tries to run the ranch himself, gets angry when I don't let him. He remembers his mama best, which means he remembers losing her best too. He paused. He won't trust you, not at first, maybe not for a long time. He's already decided nobody can replace Catherine. And the others. Thomas is 12. Quiet. Watches everything. Don't say much, but when he does, it matters. He's been trying to hold his brothers together since Catherine died. Too much weight for a boy his age. William. 10. The wild one. Gets into everything, breaks. Everything, can't sit still for a minute. He's got so much energy he don't know what to do with it. Drives me crazy sometimes. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Catherine used to say he'd either build something great or burn the whole territory down. Probably both. The girls? Mary's 8. Shy, gets sick easy. She draws pictures of her mama from memory, even though the memories are fading. His voice roughened. She's scared all the time, of storms, of strangers, of losing anyone else. And little Sarah, 5 years old and thinks she's in charge of everyone. Talks more than all her brothers combined. Tells me I'm doing everything wrong. Something softened in his eyes. She's probably right. And the baby, James. Silas's face went carefully blank. 3 years old. Never knew his mother. Asks why. Why is Mama gone? Why can't she come back? Why? He stopped. I never have an answer that makes sense to a child. Maggie absorbed this. 6 children. 6 different kinds of grief. 6 chances to fail. They might hate me, she said. Samuel might, for a while. And you're asking me to walk into that anyway. I'm asking you to try. His eyes met hers. That's all I can ask. That you try. Maggie thought about Wade Cooper's dead eyes, about her father's empty bed, about a future that held nothing but snow and debt, and a man who looked at her like she was something to be owned. Then she thought about 6 children in a valley somewhere waiting for someone to come home. She reached out and took Silas's hand. Then I reckon you better start calling me Maggie. The preacher came that same afternoon. Reverend Whitaker looked at Maggie, then at Silas, then back at Maggie. You sure about this? Does it matter? Always matters? The Reverend's eyes were kind, tired. Marriage is a covenant. I won't speak the words if you don't mean them. Maggie thought about it. For better or worse, richer or poorer, sickness and health. I'll mean them, she said. Whatever else happens, I'll honor my part. The ceremony took 5 minutes. They did it standing in the snow outside her father's cabin because she wanted him close somehow, even though he was already in the ground. Silas wore the same worn clothes. Maggie wore her mother's dress brown wool. Nothing fancy, but clean and mended and all she had. Do you, Silas Jeremiah Brennan, take this woman? I do. And do you, Margaret Ellen Dawson, take this man? Maggie looked at Silas, this stranger who would be her husband, whose children she'd mother, whose life she'd share for reasons neither of them fully understood. His gray eyes held hers, waiting, not demanding, just waiting. I do. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you man and wife. No kiss. They just nodded at each other. 2 people who'd struck a bargain and meant to keep it. Maggie signed the certificate. Margaret Ellen Brennan. The name felt like a stranger's coat. Too big, wrong shape, borrowed. But it was hers now, whatever came next. They left at dawn. Maggie took one last look at the cabin, at the grave beside it where her father lay, at the town beyond where not one person had come to say goodbye. You ain't got no friends here? Silas asked. I got one. Maggie's jaw tightened. Mrs. Patterson at the general store. She'll look after the headstone. Make sure Wade Cooper don't dig him up out of spite. Would he do that? He'd do anything. She turned away from the cabin, from the grave, from everything she'd ever known. Let's go. The gray mare Silas gave her was called Sage. Mountain-bred, sure-footed. A good horse for hard country. They rode in silence for the first hour. The snow fell thick and fast, covering their tracks almost as soon as they made them. The children, Maggie said finally. Do they know I'm coming? Silas's hands tightened on the reins. They know I went down mountain for a wife. That ain't the same thing. No, it ain't. Samuel's going to hate me. Probably. And you're just letting me walk in there blind. I told you about them, what they're like, what they've been through. He glanced at her. What else do you want to know? Maggie thought about it. Their mother, Catherine. What was she like? The name hit Silas like a physical blow. She saw it, the flinch, the way his shoulders curved inward like he was protecting something broken. She was kind, he said finally. Kinder than anyone I ever knew. She could walk into a room and make everyone feel like they mattered, like they were seen. He stared straight ahead. Mary has her eyes. Same color, same way of looking right through you. It's hard sometimes, looking at my daughter and seeing my wife. Is that why you can't? Maggie stopped herself. Can't what? Nothing. Say it. She met his eyes. Is that why you can't give them what they need? Because looking at them hurts too much. The silence stretched between them. Nothing but wind and falling snow, and things neither of them wanted to say. Yes, Silas finally admitted. That's part of it. And you think I can fix that? I think you can help. He looked at her. That's all I'm asking. The trail climbed for 2 days. By the second morning, Maggie had stopped trying to count the switchbacks. There were too many, each one steeper than the last, each one taking them higher into mountains that seemed determined to swallow them whole. Silas rode ahead, his back straight despite the wind. He didn't talk much. When he did, it was practical. Watch that rock. Trail narrows here. We'll rest the horses at the next clearing. Maggie didn't push for conversation. She was too busy staying alive. On the second night, they made camp in a shallow cave. Silas built a fire with hands that moved like they'd done this 1,000 times. Tomorrow's the last stretch, he said. We'll be home by midday. Home. The word felt strange, foreign. Tell me about the valley, Maggie said. What am I walking into? Silas stared into the flames. It's hidden. My grandfather found it 40 years ago, back when he was running from debts of his own. Spent his whole life building it into something. Cattle operation. Mostly. We run about 2,000 head in summer. Keep a few hundred through winter. That's a lot of cattle. It's a lot of land. He glanced at her. Near 40,000 acres all told. Valley itself is maybe 5 miles long, 2 miles wide. Mountains on every side. Only one way in or out, and that closes when the heavy snows hit. Maggie absorbed this. 40,000 acres, 2,000 cattle. The man sitting across from her in patched clothes and worn boots owned more land than most people saw in a lifetime. You ain't poor, she said flatly. Never said I was. You let me think it. I let you make your own assumptions. His eyes met hers across the fire. Would you have believed me if I'd ridden up in fine clothes claiming to be wealthy? Or would you have thought I was lying to take advantage? Maggie opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. He was right. She would have laughed him off, or reached for her father's rifle. So you tested me. I gave you a choice based on what you could verify. A marriage contract. Money to save your family. Everything else. He gestured vaguely toward the mountains around them. Everything else is extra. That ain't the same as honest. Maybe not. He didn't look away. But I meant what I said about partnership, about not owning you. That part was true, still is. Maggie chewed her dried meat in silence. Somewhere outside, wolves were calling to each other across the peaks. Your children, she said finally. They really don't know nothing about me. They know you're coming. Will they be there when we arrive? They'll be there. His voice was careful, too careful. Samuel's probably already decided how to drive you away. He's been planning it since I left. And you're warning me now. I'm telling you the truth, like you asked. Maggie looked at this man across the fire. This stranger she'd married. This father who couldn't look at his own children without seeing a ghost. You loved her, she said quietly. Catherine, you really loved her. More than anything. And now you're asking me to take her place. No. Silas's voice was sharp, almost angry. I'm asking you to make a new place. Something different. Something that ain't about replacing anyone. He stood abruptly, moving toward the cave entrance. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be hard. Maggie watched his silhouette against the snow glow outside. She'd thought she was the desperate one. Now, she wasn't so sure. So, the third day dawned gray and heavy. They rode through a landscape that seemed designed to kill them. Narrow trails with sheer drops, ice-covered rocks, wind so cold it burned. Then, just past midday, the trail opened up. Look, Silas said. Maggie lifted her head. Her breath caught. The valley spread below them like something from a dream. Snow-covered, but somehow protected, nestled between peaks that rose like walls on every side. She could see buildings. Not just a cabin, but real structures. A massive barn. Stables. What looked like bunkhouses. and set back from everything else on a gentle rise, a house. A real house. 2 stories. Smoke rising from the chimney. Windows glowing warm against the gray sky. "Welcome to Brennan Valley," Silas said quietly. Maggie couldn't speak. "The main house has 8 rooms," he continued as they started down. "My grandfather built it, added to it over the years. We've got running water from the springs, cold but clean." He paused. 30 workers stay through winter, more in summer for the drives. 30 workers. Maggie had expected a hardscrabble ranch, a widower barely scraping by. Not this. "Why?" she asked suddenly. Silas looked at her. "Why what? Why live like you got nothing? The patched coat, the worn boots. Why ride into town looking like a beggar when you own all this?" "Because I'm not my ranch." His voice was quiet, certain. "My grandfather came here with nothing. Built everything you see with his own hands. Wore patched coats until the day he died, because he remembered what it felt like to have nothing." He looked at her. "Money don't make a man. Character does. I wanted to find someone who could see that." "And if I couldn't? Then you wouldn't be here." They descended in silence. As they got closer, Maggie could see people emerging from buildings. Men in heavy coats stopping their work to stare. Women appearing in doorways. Word was spreading. "The boss is back, and he's brought someone with him." They reached the main house just as the afternoon light began to fade. A woman stood on the wide porch, gray-haired, sharp-eyed, her posture straight despite her age. And behind her, clustered in the doorway, 6 faces stared out at Maggie. 6 children, 6 strangers, 6 reasons to be terrified. Maggie straightened in her saddle. She'd made a promise to a dying man in a cabin far away. "Be brave, Maggie girl. Whatever else happens, be brave." She intended to keep it. The woman on the porch didn't smile. "Mr. Brennan?" Her voice carried across the yard like a whip crack. "You're back early." "Agnes." Silas dismounted, then moved to help Maggie down. His hands were brief on her waist, impersonal, but she felt the workers watching, measuring. "This is my wife, Margaret Brennan." Agnes's eyebrows rose just a fraction. "Wife. We married 3 days ago. The preacher can confirm it if you need." "I don't need confirmation." Agnes came down the porch steps, her eyes never leaving Maggie's face. Sharp eyes, the kind that saw everything and forgave nothing. "Mrs. Brennan, welcome to the valley." Maggie straightened her spine. Her dress was travel-stained, her hair escaping its pins, her face windburned and exhausted. She looked nothing like the lady of a house this size, but she'd be damned if she'd apologize for it. "Thank you, Mrs. Kelly. I'm pleased to be here." Something flickered in Agnes's face. Not quite approval, but close. "You look frozen through. Come inside. I'll have hot water sent up." "The children." Silas's voice stopped her. "Where are they?" Agnes's expression shifted. Something careful, something guarded. "They're inside, waiting." "All of them?" "All 6. Silas nodded once. His jaw was tight. "Then let's get this over with." The warmth hit Maggie like a wall when she stepped through the door. Real warmth, the kind she'd almost forgotten existed. A massive stone fireplace dominated the main room, flames crackling behind an iron grate. But she barely noticed. 6 pairs of eyes were fixed on her. They stood in a line near the stairs, oldest to youngest, like soldiers awaiting inspection. Samuel was first. 14 years old, nearly as tall as his father, with the same dark hair and the same stubborn jaw. His eyes were cold, hostile, already decided. Behind him, Thomas. 12. Quiet and watchful, just like Silas had said. His face gave away nothing. Then William. 10. Couldn't stand still, kept shifting his weight, hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. Mary. 8. Small and pale, pressed against her older brother like she was trying to disappear into him. Her eyes were red-rimmed. She'd been crying. Little Sarah. 5. Chin jutted out, arms crossed, glaring at Maggie with enough fury to set the house ablaze. And at the end, held in Agnes's arms, now baby James, 3 years old, thumb in his mouth, staring at Maggie with eyes that were impossibly, heartbreakingly familiar. Catherine's eyes. "Children!" Silas's voice was careful, controlled. "This is Margaret. She's going to be living with us now." Silence. Samuel broke it. "So, you actually did it." His voice was flat, dangerous. "You actually bought yourself a new wife." Samuel. "How much did she cost? More than a horse, less than a cow." Maggie stepped forward before Silas could respond. "Your father didn't buy me," she said quietly. "He offered me a choice. I made it." Samuel's eyes cut to her. The hatred in them was shocking in its intensity. "Nobody asked you to speak. Nobody asked you to be rude either, but here we are." Something flickered across Samuel's face. Surprise, maybe. He hadn't expected her to fight back. "You're not our mother," he said. "I know. You'll never be our mother. I know that too." "Then why are you here?" Maggie met his gaze, held it. "Because your father asked me to be. Because you need someone. Because—" She stopped, started again. "Because I didn't have anywhere else to go, and sometimes that's how families start. Not with love, with need, with choosing to show up anyway." The silence stretched. Little Sarah pushed forward, breaking the tension with all the subtlety of a 5-year-old. "Are you going to sleep in Mama's room?" Maggie's heart clenched. "No, sweetheart, I'm not." "Are you going to wear Mama's dresses?" "No." "Are you going to tell us what to do?" "Only if you need telling." Sarah considered this. "I don't need telling. I'm very responsible." "I'm sure you are. Papa says I'm bossy." "There's a difference between bossy and knowing what you want." Something shifted in Sarah's face. Not quite acceptance, but curiosity. "What's your name again?" "Margaret. But most people call me Maggie." "That's a funny name." "Sarah's funnier." The ghost of a smile flickered across Sarah's lips, just for a second. Then she remembered she was supposed to be angry and crossed her arms again. "I still don't like you." "That's okay. You don't have to like me yet." Baby James chose that moment to squirm out of Agnes's arms. He tottered forward, stopped in front of Maggie, and held up his arms. "Up." Everyone froze. Maggie looked at Silas. His face had gone pale. "He don't do that," William whispered. "He don't let nobody pick him up. Not even Pa sometimes." Maggie crouched down slowly, bringing herself to James's level. "Hey there, little man." "Up," James repeated, demanding, certain. She picked him up. He was heavier than she expected, solid and warm and smelling of soap and something sweeter underneath. He patted her face with one chubby hand. "Pretty," he announced. Then he put his thumb back in his mouth and laid his head on her shoulder like he'd done it 1,000 times before. Maggie's eyes burned. She looked up to find Silas watching her. Something raw in his expression, something broken. "He has her eyes," she said softly. "Catherine's eyes." Silas's throat worked. "I know." Samuel made a sound of disgust. "This is ridiculous." He turned and pushed past his siblings toward the stairs. "I'm not staying for this." "Samuel." Silas's voice sharpened. "Get back here." "Why? So I can watch you pretend this stranger is part of our family?" Samuel's voice cracked. Just for a second. The pain underneath was devastating. "Mama's been dead 3 years and you couldn't even wait. You just went and got a replacement like she was a broken wagon wheel. That's enough." "It's not enough." Samuel was shouting now, tears streaming down his face despite his fury. "Nothing's ever enough. She's gone and you don't even care. You just keep going like she didn't matter, like we don't matter. Samuel. But the boy was already running, up the stairs. A door slammed somewhere above. The silence he left behind was deafening. Little Sarah's lower lip was trembling. Mary had pressed herself completely behind Thomas, now crying silently. William was staring at the floor, fists clenched. James lifted his head from Maggie's shoulder. "Sammy mad," he observed. "Yes, baby, Sammy's mad." "Why?" Maggie looked at Silas. He stood frozen, face gray, looking like a man who'd just taken a bullet. "Because he misses your mama," she said quietly. "And missing someone hurts so much sometimes that it comes out like anger." James considered this. "I miss Mama too, but I don't remember her." The words hit like a physical blow. "That's okay, sweetheart. That's okay." Mary broke then. A sob tore out of her, huge and raw, and she bolted not toward the stairs, but toward Maggie. She crashed into Maggie's legs, wrapping her arms around her waist, crying so hard her whole body shook. Maggie shifted James to one hip and put her free arm around Mary. "I know," she murmured. "I know, sweetheart, I know." She looked over Mary's head at the remaining children, Thomas still watching with those careful eyes. William shifting from foot to foot like he wanted to run but didn't know which direction. Sarah's chin still jutted out, but lower lip definitely trembling now. "I ain't here to replace anyone," Maggie said. "I'm here because your pa needed help and I needed a home. That's all. Just two people who needed something finding each other." Thomas spoke for the first time. "You really just met him 3 days ago. 4 counting today. And you married him?" "Yes." "Why?" Maggie thought about it. About Wade Cooper's dead eyes. About her father's empty grave. About a stranger riding out of a blizzard with an offer that made no sense and somehow made all the sense in the world. "Because sometimes," she said slowly, "you got to jump into the river before you know how deep it is. Otherwise, you'll stand on the bank forever, never going anywhere." Thomas was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Mama used to say something like that." His voice was barely a whisper. "She said faith was just another word for jumping." Maggie's throat tightened. "She sounds like she was wise." "She was." William suddenly stepped forward. "Can you ride?" The question was so unexpected that Maggie almost laughed. "What? Horses. Can you ride them? I've been riding since I was 3. Can you rope? Some. Can you shoot? Well enough." William's eyes narrowed, assessing. "Pa said our new ma would probably be useless. Said we'd have to teach her everything." Silas made a strangled sound. "That ain't exactly what I never said I wasn't useless." Maggie interrupted. "I just said I could ride and rope and shoot. That don't mean I know anything about running a ranch this size, or raising 6 children, or," she gestured vaguely, "any of this." William considered this. "At least you're honest," he said finally. "The last governess said she could do everything. She couldn't even saddle a horse." "What happened to her?" "She quit." Sarah's voice was fierce, proud. "I put a snake in her bed." "Sarah." Agnes's voice was sharp. "We talked about this. It was just a little snake. It wasn't even poisonous." "That ain't the point." "She screamed like a baby. It was funny." Maggie pressed her lips together hard. She would not laugh. She would not. James patted her face again. "I hungry," he announced. "Then let's get you fed." She looked at Silas, who was still standing frozen near the door, still looking like a man who didn't know where he was. "Mr. Brennan, is there somewhere these children can eat supper?" He blinked. "The kitchen. Agnes will show you." "And Samuel?" Pain flickered across his face. "Leave him. He needs time." "No." Maggie's voice was quiet but firm. He needs to eat. Even if he won't look at me, even if he hates me, he needs to eat. She handed James to Agnes, gently extracted herself from Mary's grip, and started toward the stairs. Mrs. Brennan. Silas's voice stopped her. He won't listen to you. Maybe not. But I'm going to try anyway. She climbed the stairs before he could argue. The hallway above was long-lined with closed doors. She didn't know which one was Samuel's, but the sound of crying led her there anyway. She knocked. Go away. I brought you something. Silence. It's a peace offering. My mama taught me never to start a war without at least trying for peace first. More silence. I ain't coming in unless you say so, but I'm going to sit right here until you're ready to talk. She settled herself on the floor outside his door, back against the wall. She waited. 5 minutes. 10. The crying on the other side stopped, replaced by silence. Then angry pacing, then silence again. Finally the door cracked open. Samuel's face appeared in the gap. His eyes were red, his cheeks blotchy, but his expression was pure hostility. You don't have anything. What? You said you brought something. You're lying. Maggie reached into her pocket and pulled out a handkerchief. Worn cotton. Faded blue flowers embroidered in the corner. It was my mama's, she said. She made it before she died. I've carried it with me for 10 years. Samuel stared at it. Why would I want that? Because it's the only thing I got left of her. And I'm offering to let you hold it while we talk. That don't make sense. Sure it does. You're scared I'm going to take something from you. Your mama's memory. Your place in this family. Your pa's attention. Maggie held out the handkerchief. So I'm giving you something of mine first. Something that matters. So you know I understand what it means to lose something you can't replace. Samuel's hand trembled as he reached for it. He took the handkerchief, looked at it, ran his thumb over the embroidered flowers. She made this. Every stitch. She was sick by then, knew she wasn't going to make it. Wanted to leave me something I could carry with me. How old were you? 8, same as Mary. Samuel's breath caught. That's... He stopped, swallowed. That's real young. It is. He was quiet for a long moment. Does it get easier? Maggie thought about it, about the years of grief that never quite went away, just changed shape, became something she could carry, instead of something that crushed her. Not easier, she said honestly. Just different. The missing don't stop. But you learn to live around it, build something new beside the hole she left. Samuel's jaw worked. Everyone keeps telling me to move on. Pa, Agnes, the workers, like I can just decide to stop hurting. You can't. And anyone who tells you different is lying. He looked up at her then. Really looked. For the first time, she saw past the hostility to the broken child underneath. You really ain't trying to replace her. I couldn't if I wanted to. I didn't know her. But I can tell she was someone special because she raised you. All of you. I was 11 when she died. Old enough to remember everything. Sometimes I wish I didn't. His voice cracked. Sometimes I wish I was like James, too young to know what he lost. No, you don't. How do you know? Because I'd give anything for more memories of my mama, even the painful ones. The pain means she was real, means she mattered. Samuel clutched the handkerchief tighter. I can't. He stopped, started again. I can't pretend to like you. I ain't asking you to pretend anything. But He took a shaky breath. I'll try not to hate you, for now. That's all I'm asking. He handed the handkerchief back. Maggie shook her head. Keep it. For tonight. Give it back when you're ready. Samuel stared at her. Why are you being nice to me? I was awful to you down there. Because you're 14 years old, and you lost your mama and your pa just brought home a stranger and expected you to accept it. You got every right to be awful. She stood slowly, her joints aching from the cold floor. Supper's going to be ready soon. You don't have to come down. But if you're hungry, there'll be food." She started to walk away. "Mrs. Brennan." She turned. Samuel was standing in his doorway now, still hostile, still guarded, but something had shifted in his eyes. "My mama," he said quietly. "She would have liked you. She always liked people who didn't back down." Maggie's throat tightened. "Thank you, Samuel. That means more than you know." She went back downstairs. Silas was waiting at the bottom, his face a mask of controlled tension. "What happened?" "We talked." "He didn't yell at you." "He did it first, then we just talked." Silas stared at her like she'd performed a miracle. "He hasn't talked to anyone since Catherine died. Not really, not about anything that matters. He's been waiting for someone to listen without trying to fix him. And you did that in 10 minutes. I gave him my mama's handkerchief." Silas blinked. "What?" "He's scared of losing things. So I showed him I understand what that feels like, that's all." Before Silas could respond, the front door burst open. A man stumbled in snow-covered, breathing hard. "Boss!" He was one of the workers, Maggie realized. Young. Panicked. "Boss, we got trouble." Silas's whole demeanor changed. The uncertain father disappeared, replaced by something harder. A rancher. A leader. "What kind of trouble?" "Riders coming up the pass. Dozen of them, maybe more." "Who?" The worker swallowed. Couldn't see their faces, but their leader. He hesitated. "Boss, he was wearing a marshal's badge. And he was asking about you, about your wife. Said someone back in town filed a complaint." Maggie's blood went cold. Wade Cooper. "What kind of complaint?" Silas's voice was deadly quiet. "Said your marriage ain't valid. Said you kidnapped a woman against her will. Said..." The worker glanced at Maggie. "Said he's here to take her back." The warmth of the house suddenly felt suffocating. Silas turned to her, his eyes blazing. "Did you know about this?" "No, I swear. I didn't. Because if you're playing some kind of game, I ain't playing anything." Maggie's voice was fierce. "Wade Cooper wanted to marry me. I said no. This is his revenge." "You sure about that?" "Look at me." She grabbed his arm, forced him to meet her eyes. "I left everything I knew to come here. I married a stranger. I gave your son my dead mother's handkerchief. Does that sound like someone running a game?" The moment stretched between them. Then Silas nodded. "Okay, I believe you." He turned to the worker. "How long before they get here?" "An hour, maybe less." "Get the men armed. Nobody does anything stupid, but I want them ready." The worker ran. Silas looked at Agnes. "Take the children upstairs. Lock them in the nursery. Don't let them out until I say so." "Silas." "Now." Agnes gathered the children. Mary was crying again. Sarah was demanding to know what was happening. Thomas had gone pale, protective arm around his younger siblings. Only Samuel stayed. "Pa." His voice was steady, grown up. "I can help." "No." "I can shoot. You taught me." "I said no." Silas's voice cracked. "Your brothers and sisters need you upstairs. Keep them calm. Can you do that?" Samuel's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Yes, sir." He turned to go, then stopped, looked at Maggie. "Don't let them take you," he said quietly. "You ain't what I wanted, but you ain't what I expected either." Then he was gone. Maggie and Silas stood alone in the great room. "Wade Cooper." Silas's voice was low, dangerous. "Tell me about him." "He's a debt collector, owned the paper on my father's farm, wanted me as payment." "And you said no." "I said I'd rather freeze to death." "So he followed you here." "He must have." Maggie's mind was racing. "But a marshal that don't make sense. Wade don't have that kind of pull. He's just a debt collector." "In your town, maybe. Out here money talks. And a man with enough of it can buy any badge he wants." Silas moved to the mantel, pulled down a rifle. "You said you can shoot." I can. He tossed her a pistol from a drawer. Then prove it. She caught it, checked the chamber, nodded. What's the plan? We meet them at the gate. This is my land. They got no authority here unless I let them have it. And if they don't care about authority? Silas's smile was cold. Then we have a problem, but not as big a problem as they're going to have. He started toward the door. Maggie caught his arm. Silas. He stopped. If this goes bad, she said quietly, if they take me. They ain't taking you. If they do, promise me you'll take care of those children, all of them, even Samuel. I ain't promising that because it ain't going to happen. Silas. You're my wife. His voice was fierce, low. I don't care if I only met you 4 days ago. I made a promise in front of God and a preacher, and I intend to keep it. He cupped her face with one rough hand. Nobody takes what's mine. Not Wade Cooper. Not a bought marshal. Not anyone. Maggie stared at him. At this stranger who'd become her husband, who was willing to fight for her before he even knew if she was worth fighting for. I ain't worth dying over, she whispered. That ain't your decision to make. He dropped his hand and walked out into the snow. Maggie followed. The riders came over the ridge just as the sun was setting, their silhouettes dark against the blood-red sky. 12 of them, maybe more. And at the front, on a pale horse, sat Wade Cooper. He'd bought himself a badge. It gleamed on his chest like a lie. Silas Brennan. His voice carried across the snow. I'm Federal Marshal Cooper. I'm here on official business. There ain't no such thing as Federal Marshal Cooper. Silas's voice was ice. And you got no jurisdiction in Wyoming territory. I got papers that say otherwise. Papers can be bought. Wade smiled. That same cold, calculated smile that made Maggie's skin crawl. So can women, apparently. His eyes found Maggie behind Silas. Hello, Margaret. Miss me. Like a rattlesnake misses its venom. Wade laughed. Still got that spirit. Good. I like spirit. Silas stepped forward. His workers flanked him, armed, silent. State your business and get off my land. My business is simple. Wade pulled a paper from his coat. This marriage is invalid. Margaret Dawson was coerced into the union by a man she'd never met. I'm here to rectify that injustice and return her to her rightful home. Her home is here now. Is it? Wade's eyes glittered. Or is it a prison she was sold into by a desperate man with no other options? Maggie pushed past Silas. I wasn't sold. I chose. You chose a stranger over a man who's known you for years, who loved you, who would have given you everything. You didn't love me. You wanted to own me. There's a difference. Is there? Wade dismounted slowly. Because from where I'm standing, you just traded one owner for another. I ain't nobody's property. Then prove it. Wade held out his hand. Come with me willingly, right now, in front of all these witnesses. Prove you're not being held against your will? Maggie stared at him. This was his game. Make her choose publicly. Make it seem like she had options. And if she refused, he'd claim it proved coercion. I'll go nowhere with you, she said quietly. Then I'll have to take you by force. Wade's voice dropped all pretense of civility. And anyone who stands in my way will be charged with obstruction of a federal officer. You ain't federal anything. I got a badge that says otherwise. Badges can be taken off. Silas's voice was deadly calm. So can heads. Push me, Cooper, and find out which one I remove first. The moment balanced on a knife's edge. 12 armed riders against 30 armed workers. Wade's bought authority against Silas's land rights. And Maggie standing between them like the prize neither would surrender. Then a voice cut through the tension. What in God's name is happening out here? Everyone turned. Agnes stood on the porch, and beside her, clutching her hand, was Samuel. Agnes, I told you to stay inside. You told me to keep the children safe. This is me keeping them safe. Agnes's voice was iron. Because if shooting starts, those young ones upstairs are going to hear every bullet. Is that what you want, Mr. Brennan? Your children listening to their father die. Silas went pale. Wade smiled. The lady makes an excellent point. Why don't we settle this peacefully? Margaret comes with me. Nobody gets hurt. The children don't get traumatized. No. It was Samuel who spoke. The boy stepped forward past Agnes off the porch into the snow between his father and Wade Cooper. No, he said again. She stays. Wade's eyebrows rose. And who are you? Samuel Brennan. And that woman is my father's wife, which makes her my family. She's been here less than a day. Don't matter. Samuel's voice was steady. She's family now, and we don't let outsiders take our family. Maggie's eyes burned. This boy, this hostile, grieving, broken boy who'd screamed at her just an hour ago, standing up for her, calling her family. Wade's smile faltered. This is touching, really, but it changes nothing. Actually, a new voice said, I think it changes everything. A rider emerged from the workers' ranks. Older, gray-haired, sitting his horse like a man who'd spent 50 years in the saddle. Maggie didn't recognize him, but Wade clearly did. His face went white. Judge Morrison. Hello, Wade. The older man's voice was pleasant, mild, absolutely terrifying. Funny seeing you out here, with a badge that ain't yours, making claims that ain't true. I don't know what you... Save it. Judge Morrison dismounted slowly. I got a telegram 3 days ago from a preacher named Whitaker. Said a young woman in his congregation was being harassed by a debt collector. Said he'd performed her marriage legally and properly. Asked me to look into it. He pulled a paper from his own coat. Imagine my surprise when I found out that debt collector had bought himself a fake federal badge and was planning to kidnap a legally married woman from her husband's home. Wade's face contorted. This is lies, all of it. Is it because I also found records of you buying that badge from a counterfeiter in Denver and paying off 3 men to act as federal witnesses? Judge Morrison's smile was cold. That's fraud, Wade. And kidnapping, and impersonating an officer. Any one of those could get you 10 years in territorial prison. Wade's hand moved toward his gun. 30 rifles clicked behind Silas. I wouldn't, the judge said mildly. You're outgunned, outlawyered, and out of options. The moment stretched. Then Wade's hand dropped. This ain't over, he hissed at Maggie. You hear me? This ain't over. Yes, Silas said quietly. It is. He stepped forward until he was inches from Wade's face. You come near my wife again. You come near my children. You even think about this valley. And I will find you. And I will kill you. And I will sleep peacefully every night for the rest of my life. His voice dropped to a whisper. Are we clear? Wade's jaw worked. Clear, he spat. He mounted his horse, jerked the reins, and rode away into the gathering darkness. His men followed. The silence they left behind was absolute. Then Samuel's voice broke it. That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And for the first time in 3 years, the boy smiled. Maggie looked at Silas, at Samuel, at the workers and the judge, and Agnes on the porch, and the faint shapes of 5 children watching from an upstairs window. Her family, her home, her life. The future she'd never dared to imagine. And standing in the snow surrounded by strangers who'd become her people in the span of a single impossible day, Maggie Brennan did something she hadn't done in years. She laughed. 2 weeks passed like a held breath. Maggie learned the rhythm of the house. Breakfast at 6, chores until noon, lessons in the afternoon. Thomas was teaching Mary and Sarah their letters while Samuel handled the younger boys' arithmetic. Supper at 5, prayers at 8, bed by 9. It was a good rhythm, a healing rhythm. But something was wrong with Mary. Maggie noticed it first at breakfast on the 15th day. The girl barely touched her porridge. Her face was flushed, her eyes too bright. "Mary, sweetheart, you feeling all right?" "I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. Maggie could see it, could feel it the way you feel a storm coming before the clouds appear. "Let me check your forehead." "I said I'm fine." Mary pushed back from the table and ran upstairs. Silas looked up from his coffee. "What was that about?" "She's sick." "She seemed okay yesterday." "She ain't okay today." Maggie was already moving toward the stairs when Agnes caught her arm. "Let me check on her. She knows me better." "Agnes, trust me. If it's serious, I'll call you." Maggie hesitated, but Agnes was right. 2 weeks wasn't enough time to build the kind of trust that let you touch a sick child. "Fine, but if she's got a fever, I'll call you." Agnes went upstairs. Maggie sat back down, tried to eat, couldn't. The other children sensed something was wrong. James climbed into her lap without asking. Sarah stopped talking, which was unprecedented. Even William sat still. 5 minutes passed. 10. Agnes appeared at the top of the stairs. Her face was gray. "Maggie, you better come." The fever hit hard and fast. By noon, Mary was burning up. By evening, she was delirious. By nightfall, she was struggling to breathe. "It's the chest fever." Agnes's voice was tight. "Same thing that took her twice before. Her lungs ain't strong." "What did you do before?" Catherine knew what to do, had remedies, teas and poultices and such. "Where are they?" "Gone. We ran out last winter. Haven't been able to get more. The passes close before the medicine wagons come through." Maggie's mind raced. "Onions! You got onions?" "What?" "Onions and mustard powder. Honey if you have it." Agnes stared at her. "What are you going to do?" "What my grandmother taught me. What my mama used when my brother got the chest fever." "Did he live?" Maggie hesitated. Her brother had lived through the fever. Died 3 weeks later from something else entirely. "He lived," she said. "Now go. Hurry." Agnes ran. Maggie turned back to Mary. The girl was so small in the big bed, so pale, her chest heaving with every labored breath. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm right here." Mary's eyes fluttered open, glassy, unfocused. "Mama." Maggie's heart cracked. "No, honey, it's Maggie. Want Mama." Mary's voice was barely a whisper. "She used to sing. Made the bad dreams go away." "What did she sing?" "Don't remember." Tears leaked from Mary's eyes. "Can't remember her voice anymore? Why can't I remember?" Maggie didn't have an answer, so she did the only thing she could. She started singing. An old hymn, one her grandmother taught her back in Ireland before she died, one her mother sang on the Oregon Trail when everything was falling apart and singing was all they had left. Her voice was rough, unpracticed. But Mary's face slowly relaxed as the melody wrapped around her. Footsteps in the doorway. Silas stood there. His face was white. "How bad?" "Bad." Maggie didn't stop singing, just softened her voice. "The fever's climbing. If it doesn't break soon." She didn't finish. "What do you need?" "Agnes is getting supplies. I need everyone out of this room. Less people, less sickness spreading. And I need—" She hesitated. "I need you to trust me. I barely know you." "I know. But your daughter is dying and I'm the only one here who knows what to do." The words hung between them. Silas's jaw worked. "What about a doctor? We could ride for one, 2 days there, 2 days back. She don't have 4 days." "Then what do? We fight." Maggie met his eyes. "I fight. You keep the other children calm. Keep them fed. Keep them from panicking. Can you do that? They're going to want to see her. Not yet. Not until I know which way this is going. And if it goes wrong? Maggie's voice hardened. It ain't going wrong. I didn't come all this way to lose a child. Not this one. Not any of them. Agnes returned with the supplies. Maggie set to work. She crushed onions into paste. Mixed them with mustard powder and honey. Spread the mixture onto cloth for poultices. The smell was sharp, pungent, filled the room. This is going to be uncomfortable, she warned Mary. But it'll help draw out the sickness. You ready? Mary nodded weakly. Maggie placed the poultice on her chest. The girl whimpered but didn't cry out. Now we steam her. She turned to Agnes. Boiling water. Basin. We need to get moisture into her lungs. The hours blurred together. Maggie worked without stopping, changing poultices, keeping the steam going, forcing sips of honey water between Mary's cracked lips. The other children tried to help. Samuel appeared with fresh linens. Thomas brought water without being asked. Even little James toddled in with his favorite blanket, pressing it into Maggie's hands. For Mary, he said seriously. So she's not cold. Maggie's eyes burned. Thank you, sweetheart. That's real kind. Near midnight, the door opened again. Silas stepped in. He'd been pacing the hallway for hours. Maggie could hear his footsteps through the walls. Any change? Not yet. It's been 8 hours. I know. Maybe we should what? Maggie's voice was sharper than she intended. Give up. Let her die, that what you want? Silas flinched. Of course not. Then let me work. He didn't leave, just stood there watching his face a mask of controlled terror. Finally, he spoke again. Catherine died in this room. Maggie's hands stilled. What? This was our bedroom. She died right there in that bed. His voice cracked. I held her hand while she bled out. Couldn't do nothing. Just watched her slip away. He moved closer, sank into the chair beside the bed. I can't lose another one. Not here. Not like this. Maggie looked at him, at this broken man who'd been carrying grief like a stone around his neck for 3 years. You ain't going to lose her. You don't know that. No, but I'm going to fight like I do. She reached out, touched his hand. And so are you. Together. Silas's fingers curled around hers. I don't know how to do this, he whispered. Don't know how to let someone help. Catherine was the strong one, the one who fixed things. You survived. That's enough. Is it? It has to be. Because those children out there need you. And you need them. And right now your daughter needs both of us to stop talking and start praying. Silas's hand tightened on hers. They sat together in silence, watching, waiting, fighting. 3 o'clock came and went. Mary's breathing got worse. Her lips were turning blue. The fever wasn't breaking. Maggie tried everything. More poultices, more steam, cooler cloths on her forehead. Nothing worked. Come on, sweetheart. Come on. Fight for me. Mary didn't respond. She was drifting now, somewhere between consciousness and something darker. Maggie. Agnes's voice was gentle. Too gentle. Maybe we should prepare the children. Just in case. No. Maggie. I said no. She grabbed Mary's hand. Held on tight. Listen to me, Mary Brennan. I know you can hear me. I know you're tired. I know it hurts. But you ain't allowed to give up. You hear me. You got brothers and sisters who need you. You got a daddy who can't lose nobody else. You got... Her voice broke. You got me. And I just found you. And I ain't ready to let you go. Not yet. Not when we haven't even had a chance to know each other. Mary's eyelids fluttered. That's right. Come back to me. Come on. Maggie. The voice was thin, weak, but there. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. I saw Mama. Maggie's blood went cold. What? In my dream. She was in a garden. There were flowers everywhere. Mary's voice was dreamy, distant. She said she missed me. Mary, listen to me. You stay here. You understand? Stay with us. She said she was waiting. No. Silas lurched forward, grabbing Mary's other hand. No, sweetheart. Not yet. Please, not yet. Mary's eyes focused on him, just for a moment. Daddy? I'm here, baby girl. I'm right here. Don't cry, Daddy. Mama said it's okay. Mama said, your mama would want you to stay. Silas's voice shattered. She'd want you to grow up, get married, have babies of your own. She wouldn't want you to come to her now, not yet. Not when you have so much life left to live. Mary was quiet, then so softly Maggie almost missed it. Okay, Daddy, I'll stay. Her hand tightened in his, and the fever broke. It happened like a switch being flipped. One moment Mary was burning. The next her skin cooled. Her breathing eased. The blue left her lips. Maggie slumped back in her chair. She's going to be okay. She said it like a prayer, like a benediction. She's going to be okay. Silas made a sound that wasn't quite crying, something deeper, something primal and broken finally being allowed to heal. He gathered Mary into his arms, holding her like he'd never let go. Thank you, he whispered into her hair. Thank you for staying. Mary's small hand patted his back. You're squishing me, Daddy. Silas laughed, really laughed. The sound filled the room like something that had been locked away for years, finally being set free. The door burst open. Samuel stood there, the other children crowded behind him. Is she... His voice cracked. Is she okay? She's okay. Maggie stood on shaking legs. She's going to be fine. Sarah pushed past her brothers and launched herself at the bed. Mary, Mary, you can't die. Who's going to braid my hair? I'm not dying, dummy. Mary's voice was weak but present. And you can braid your own hair. I cannot. I always make it crooked. That's because you don't pay attention. I do pay attention. You do not. They were arguing. Maggie had never heard anything more beautiful in her life. Thomas appeared at her elbow. You saved her. We all did. No. His quiet eyes met hers. You did. Pa was falling apart. Agnes didn't know what to do. You just... He shook his head. You just kept going. That's all you can do sometimes. Just keep going. Thomas nodded slowly. Mama would have liked you. It was the second time a Brennan child had said those words to her. This time, Maggie let herself believe it. The next morning the letter came. Maggie was in the kitchen helping Agnes prepare breakfast when one of the workers appeared in the doorway. Mrs. Brennan Ryder just came through the pass. Had this for you. He held out an envelope. Maggie recognized the handwriting immediately. Mrs. Patterson's careful script. Her hands trembled as she tore it open. Dear Mrs. Brennan, it is with great sorrow that I must inform you. The words blurred. Maggie read them 3 times before they made sense. Her father's grave had been vandalized. Wade Cooper's men. The night before, the judge ran them out of the valley. They dug up the headstone, smashed it to pieces, scattered the flowers Maggie had planted. And that wasn't the worst part. They'd left a message carved into the wooden cross Mrs. Patterson had put up as a temporary marker. Coward's daughter. Whore's grave. Maggie's knees buckled. She didn't remember falling. Didn't remember crying out. But suddenly Silas was there catching her before she hit the ground. Maggie! Maggie, what is it? She couldn't speak. Could only hold out the letter. Silas read it. His face went white, then red, then a shade of fury she'd never seen before. I'll kill him. No. He desecrated your father's grave. I know what he did. Maggie's voice came out hollow, empty. But killing him won't fix it. won't bring back the headstone, won't undo what he wrote. Then what do you want me to do? I don't know. The tears came then, hot and fast and unstoppable. I don't know. I wasn't there. When he died, when they buried him. I wasn't there, and now I can't even visit his grave without seeing. Her voice broke completely. Silas pulled her close, let her sob against his chest. I'm sorry. His voice was rough. I'm so sorry. It's my fault. If I hadn't left, you'd be married to Cooper right now, or dead. Is that what your father would have wanted? He would have wanted me to protect him, even after he was gone. You can't protect the dead, Maggie. You can only honor them. How am I supposed to honor him when his grave says she couldn't even finish? By living, by being happy, by building something good. Silas's hand stroked her hair. That's what he wanted for you. That's why he let you go. Maggie pulled back, looked at him through tear-blurred eyes. How do you know what he wanted? Because it's what I'd want, if I was dying, if my children had a chance at something better. His voice cracked. I'd want them to take it, even if it meant leaving me behind. They stood there holding each other. Two broken people, two shared griefs, two lives intertwined in ways neither had expected. Maggie. She looked up. We can't undo what Cooper did, but we can make sure he doesn't win. Silas's jaw tightened. Your father raised you, loved you, made you who you are. That's his legacy, not some words carved by a bitter man on a wooden cross. It still hurts. I know, it'll always hurt. He cupped her face. But you don't have to hurt alone, not anymore. Footsteps on the stairs. Samuel appeared still in his nightshirt, hair mussed from sleep. What's wrong? I heard crying. Maggie tried to compose herself. Couldn't. Samuel's eyes went to the letter in Silas's hand. What happened? Nothing you need to worry about. Don't do that. Samuel's voice sharpened. Don't treat me like a child. I stood up for her against Cooper. I got a right to know what's happening. Silas hesitated. Then he handed the letter to his son. Samuel read it. His face went through the same progression his father's had, white-red fury. That bastard. Language. He desecrated her father's grave. I think that deserves strong language. Samuel looked at Maggie. Really looked. I'm sorry. This ain't right. None of it. Thank you, Samuel. He shifted uncomfortably. I still got your mama's handkerchief, the one you gave me. I've been keeping it safe. You can keep it as long as you need. I don't think I need it anymore. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the worn cloth. Maybe you need it now. He held it out. Maggie took it. The fabric was warm from being pressed against his heart. Your father was lucky, Samuel said quietly. He had a daughter who loved him enough to leave everything, who loved him enough to start over. His voice cracked. That's more than most people get. Then he did something he'd never done before. He stepped forward and hugged her. It was awkward, brief, the hug of a boy who'd forgotten how physical affection worked, but it was real. We're going to fix this, Samuel said as he pulled back. We're going to find a way. How? I don't know yet, but we will. His jaw set in that stubborn way that was so like his father. Because that's what family does. By noon, the whole household knew. William punched a wall. Thomas went quiet for hours. Sarah demanded to know who had hurt Maggie and whether she could put a snake in their bed. Even little James understood something was wrong. He followed Maggie everywhere, pressing his small body against her legs like he could protect her with his presence. But it was Mary who surprised her most. The girl was still weak from the fever, still supposed to be in bed. But she appeared in the kitchen that afternoon, walking unsteadily wrapped in a quilt. Mary, you should be resting. I made you something. She held out a piece of paper, a drawing. Maggie took it. It showed a man lying in a field of flowers. Above him, a woman with angel wings watched over him. and beside the grave holding hands were two figures, one big, one small. "That's your father," Mary said, pointing. "And that's your mother watching him. And that's you visiting them. When you can't go in person, I mean. You can look at this instead." Maggie's throat closed. "Mary, I know it ain't the same, but my mama—" Mary's voice wavered. "I draw pictures of her when I miss her. It helps sometimes. Makes her feel closer. This is beautiful." "It ain't that good. I messed up the flowers." "It's perfect." Maggie pulled the girl into a careful hug. "It's absolutely perfect." Mary's thin arms wrapped around her. "Thank you for saving me," she whispered. "I know you didn't have to. You barely know me. I know you well enough." "How, we only just met." Maggie pulled back, looked at this small, sick, brave girl who'd almost died and come back anyway. "Because you're mine now," she said simply. "All of you. Whether you like it or not, whether I earned it or not, you're mine. And I take care of what's mine." Mary's lower lip trembled. "Mama used to say that. Almost exactly like that." "Then your mama was a wise woman." "She was." Mary's eyes filled with tears. "I miss her." "I know, sweetheart. I know." "But—" The girl hesitated, swallowed. "But I'm glad you're here. Is that okay? Is it okay to be glad?" Maggie's heart cracked wide open. "It's more than okay. It's exactly right." That night, after the children were in bed, Maggie found Silas on the porch. He was staring at the mountains. The stars above them were brilliant, cold, impossibly far away. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Haven't slept well in 3 years." She settled beside him on the bench, close but not touching. "I've been thinking," Silas said finally. "About what Cooper did. About what I should do about it." "What did you decide?" "Nothing good." His jaw tightened. "Part of me wants to ride down there and kill him. Make him pay for every wound he's caused you. But that ain't justice. That's revenge. And revenge don't heal nothing. Just creates new wounds. So what then? Judge Morrison owes me a favor, from back when my father helped him stake his claim. I'm going to call it in." Maggie looked at him. "What kind of favor?" "The kind that gets Wade Cooper brought up on real charges. Fraud, intimidation, desecration of a grave." Silas's voice went hard. "He's going to prison, Maggie, legally, properly, where he can rot for the rest of his miserable life. That could take years." "I got years. We got years." He turned to face her. "Unless you're planning on leaving." "I told you I wasn't." "That was before. Before Cooper came. Before your father's grave. Before all of it." His voice dropped. "I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to go, if this was all too much." Maggie looked at him. At this man she'd known for less than 3 weeks. Who'd turned her life upside down? Who'd given her a family when she had none? "My father asked me to do something before he died," she said quietly. "Made me promise." "What?" "To be brave. To find something worth fighting for." She reached out, took his hand. "I found it. All of it. You. The children. This valley. It ain't what I expected. It ain't what I planned. But it's real. And it's mine. And I ain't giving it up just because some coward with a grudge tries to scare me off." Silas's fingers tightened around hers. "You mean that—" Every word. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it. "I didn't expect you," he said. "When I rode down that mountain, I was looking for a solution, a caretaker, someone to manage the children while I—" He stopped. "While I finished falling apart. And now I can't imagine this place without you." His eyes met hers. "Can't imagine my life without you. And that terrifies me more than anything Cooper could ever do." "Why?" Because the last time I loved someone she died, and I ain't sure I survive losing again. The word hung between them. Love. Neither of them looked away. I ain't going anywhere, Maggie said. I already told you that. Promises get broken. Not mine, not ever. Silas studied her face. Whatever he saw there made something in his expression shift. Okay, he said quietly. Okay. He didn't say he loved her, wasn't ready for that yet, but something had changed. Some wall had crumbled. And in its place, something new was starting to grow. Maggie leaned against his shoulder. He put his arm around her. They sat together in the darkness, watching the stars wheel overhead, while somewhere below them, 6 children slept peacefully for the first time in years. And, in a distant town, unbeknownst to any of them, Wade Cooper was making new plans. Darker ones. Deadlier ones. The kind that would shake the valley to its foundations before the spring thaw came. The winter settled deep and hard around the valley. 6 weeks since Wade Cooper fled. 6 weeks since Mary's fever broke. 6 weeks since Maggie started feeling like she belonged. The children had changed. Samuel still tested her, sometimes pushed back on small things, but the hatred was gone. Thomas had started talking more, sharing stories about his mother that made everyone laugh and cry in equal measure. William channeled his wild energy into helping with the horses, spending hours in the barn, with Maggie learning to break colts. Mary followed her everywhere now, drew pictures of them together, asked questions about Ireland and the Oregon Trail, and whether Maggie had ever seen a real leprechaun. Little Sarah had stopped putting snakes in people's beds. Mostly. And James. Sweet impossible James had started calling her Mama. The first time it happened, Maggie froze, looked at Silas in panic. He just shook his head. Let him, he said quietly. He needs it. So she did. And somehow, against all odds, it felt right. But happiness in the valley was a fragile thing. Maggie knew that. Had learned it the hard way when her own mother died on the trail, when her father's cough turned bloody, when everything she'd ever known crumbled to dust. Good things didn't last. Not for people like her. The first sign of trouble came on a Tuesday morning. Silas had ridden out before dawn to check on the cattle in the north pasture. Routine work. Nothing unusual. He should have been back by noon. By 2 o'clock, Maggie was pacing. By 3, she was standing on the porch, scanning the horizon. He probably just got delayed, Agnes said. Weather can turn quick up there. The weather's fine. Then maybe one of the cattle got stuck. Or he found a fence that needed mending. He would have sent word. Agnes didn't have an answer for that. 4 o'clock came. The children sensed something wrong. Samuel appeared on the porch beside her, rifle in hand. How long do we wait? Until he comes back. And if he doesn't? Maggie's jaw tightened. Then we go looking. 5 o'clock. The sun was starting to set. That's when they heard the horse. Maggie's heart leaped. She ran toward the gate, expecting to see Silas. Instead, she saw his horse. Alone. Riderless. Blood on the saddle. Everything after that happened in fragments. Samuel shouting for the workers. Agnes gathering the children, pulling them inside despite their protests. Men mounting horses, grabbing rifles, preparing for something nobody wanted to name. Maggie caught the horse's reins. Her hands were shaking. Easy, boy, easy. The horse was spooked, wild-eyed. More blood on his flank than she'd first noticed. Mrs. Brennan. One of the workers, a grizzled man named Hank, appeared beside her. We need to ride out, now. I'm coming with you. Ma'am, that ain't... I said I'm coming. Hank looked at her, saw something in her face that stopped his argument. Yes, ma'am, I'll saddle Sage. They rode out 20 minutes later. 8 men. Maggie in the center. Samuel had tried to come, but she'd stopped him. The children need you here. If something happens to me and your father, don't say that. If something happens, they need someone to protect them. Someone to hold the family together. She gripped his shoulder. Can you do that? Samuel's jaw worked. Yes, ma'am. Good. We'll be back before midnight, with your father. She didn't let herself think about the alternative. The trail north was treacherous in the fading light. Ice-covered rocks, hidden drops, the kind of terrain that could kill a man without any help from bandits or enemies. But it wasn't the terrain that had gotten Silas. They found him an hour later at the bottom of a ravine. He was alive. Barely. Silas! Maggie slid down the slope rocks, cutting her hands, not caring. Silas, can you hear me? He was lying at an awkward angle, one leg twisted beneath him. Blood matted his hair. His face was pale, eyes closed. Silas? His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Maggie. I'm here. I'm right here. Shouldn't have come. His voice was barely a whisper. Dangerous. What happened? Ambush. 3 men. Waiting at the pass. He coughed, blood on his lips. Shot the horse. Horse threw me. Fell. Who were they? Didn't see faces. But one of them, another cough. Worse this time. One of them said Cooper sends his regards. Maggie's blood went cold. We need to get him back to the valley. She looked up at Hank. Can you make a stretcher? Already on it, ma'am. They worked fast. Cut branches. Used coats for binding. Created something that would hold a man's weight without killing him. Getting Silas up the slope was the hardest thing Maggie had ever done. He screamed when they moved his leg. The bone was broken, she could see that now. Badly broken. The kind of break that could kill a man if it wasn't set right. I'm sorry. She was crying. Hadn't realized until she tasted salt. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. His hand found hers, squeezed weakly. You're saving me. Can't apologize for that. They strapped him to the stretcher. Started the long journey home. Maggie didn't leave his side. Halfway back, Silas grabbed her arm. His grip was weak but urgent. Maggie. Save your strength. Listen to me. His eyes were more focused now, determined. If I don't make it, you're going to make it. If I don't, the children, you have to take them, legally, the ranch, everything. I changed my will last month. It's all yours if something happens to me. Maggie's heart stopped. What? Talked to Judge Morrison when he was here. Drew up the papers. Silas's voice was fading. You're their mother now, in every way that matters. Silas? Promise me. Promise you'll take care of them, no matter what. I promise. And promise you won't let Cooper win. Whatever he's planning, whatever he does next, don't let him take the valley. Don't let him take our family. I won't. His eyes closed. For one terrible moment, Maggie thought he was gone, but his chest still rose and fell, shallow, uneven. But there. Hold on, she whispered. Just hold on. They made it back to the valley just before midnight. Agnes met them at the gate, face white with fear. Oh, Lord, is he? He's alive, but he needs a doctor. The passes are closed. No one can get through until spring. Then we're going to have to do this ourselves. The next hours were a blur. Agnes had some medical training. Enough to know that Silas's leg needed to be set before the bone healed wrong. Enough to know that the infection already spreading through his wounds could kill him faster than the break itself. Maggie held him down while Agnes worked. His screams would haunt her for the rest of her life. But when it was over, when the bone was set, and the wounds were cleaned, and the fever had been beaten back with every remedy they could find, Silas opened his eyes and looked at her. Still here. Where else would I be? Most women would have run by now. This much trouble. I ain't most women. No. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. You ain't. Samuel appeared in the doorway. His face was pale, terrified, but his voice was steady. Is he going to be okay? He's going to be fine, Maggie said. Just needs rest. And Cooper. The name hung in the air like poison. We'll deal with Cooper. How? Maggie looked at Silas, at Agnes, at Samuel. I don't know yet, but he's not winning. Not this time. Not ever. 3 days passed. Silas drifted in and out of consciousness, fighting the fever that kept trying to pull him under. Maggie barely slept, barely ate, sat by his bedside hour after hour, willing him to live, willing the infection to recede, willing some miracle to save the man she'd only just begun to love. On the 4th morning, she woke to find him watching her. "You look terrible," he said. His voice was weak, but it was his voice, clear, present. "You're one to talk." "How long was I out?" 3 days, 4 nights. Lost count somewhere in the middle. Silas's hand found hers. "You stayed." "Of course I stayed." "The whole time." "The whole time." Something shifted in his expression. Something soft and wondering and terrified all at once. "Maggie." "Don't." She shook her head. "Don't say whatever you're about to say. Not yet. Not until you're stronger." "What if I don't get stronger?" "You will." "But what if—" "You will." Her voice was fierce, absolute. "Because I ain't done fighting for you. And I ain't done needing you. And those 6 children downstairs ain't done needing their father. So you're going to get stronger. That ain't a request. That's an order." Silas stared at her. Then impossibly he laughed. It was weak, painful, turned into a cough that made Maggie's heart clench. But it was a laugh. "Anyone ever tell you you're terrifying?" "My father, daily." "Smart man." He was. Silas's grip on her hand tightened. "I need to tell you something." "Silas, please, just let me say it." She fell silent. "When Catherine died, I thought I'd never feel anything again. Not love, not hope, not any of it. I closed up, shut down, became a ghost in my own house." His voice cracked. "My children needed me, and I couldn't be there for them. Couldn't even look at them without seeing her, without feeling like my heart was being ripped out all over again." "That's grief. It's normal." "Maybe. But it wasn't fair. Not to them. Not to anyone." He looked at her. "And then you came. And everything changed." "Silas, you walked into our lives with nothing but a borrowed dress and a backbone made of steel, and you just started fixing things. The children. The house. Me." His eyes were bright with tears. "You fixed me, Maggie. I didn't think I could be fixed." "You fixed yourself. I just gave you a reason to try." "Same thing." "It ain't." "It is." His hand came up to cup her face. "And I need you to know, before anything else happens, before Cooper makes his next move, before the world falls apart again, I need you to know that I love you." The words hit her like a physical blow. "I love you," he said again. "Not because of the arrangement. Not because of the children. Because of you. Just you." Maggie's eyes filled with tears. "You can't—" Her voice broke. "You can't say things like that when you're half dead. It ain't fair." "I ain't dying." "You almost did." "But I didn't. And I ain't planning to." His thumb brushed her cheek. "So say it back, or don't. But at least know that whatever happens next, I meant it. Every word." Maggie looked at him. This man she'd married out of desperation. This stranger who'd become the center of her world. "I love you too." The words came out soft, almost surprised at themselves. "I love your stubbornness and your silence and the way you look at your children when you think nobody's watching. I love that you read poetry when you can't sleep. I love that you came for me when you didn't have to, that you fought for me when it would have been easier to let me go." She leaned down, pressed her forehead to his. "I love you, Silas Brennan, and I ain't going anywhere." He kissed her then. Soft. Gentle. The kiss of a man who'd finally stopped being afraid. When they broke apart, Maggie was crying and laughing at the same time. "This is ridiculous," she said. "You're supposed to be resting." "I am resting. Very peaceful over here." "You're impossible." "So are you. That's why we match." A knock at the door interrupted them. Samuel stood there, face carefully blank. "Sorry to interrupt, but there's a rider coming up the pass. Hank spotted him from the watchtower." Maggie tensed. "Cooper?" "Don't know yet, but Hank says he ain't dressed for fighting. Looks like a messenger." Silas tried to sit up. Winced. "Help me to the window." "You ain't getting out of that bed." "Maggie, I'll handle it." She stood. Checked the pistol at her hip. "Samuel, stay with your father. If anything happens, get him and the children into the root cellar." "But that's an order." She didn't wait for a response, just walked out down the stairs through the house and onto the porch. The rider was closer now. She could see he was young, barely more than a boy, wearing clothes too thin for the weather. He stopped at the gate. "Mrs. Brennan." "Who's asking?" "Got a message from Mr. Wade Cooper." Maggie's hand went to her pistol. "Speak it." The boy swallowed. He was scared, she realized. Terrified. "Mr. Cooper says..." He pulled a paper from his coat. "Mr. Cooper says he's got proof your marriage ain't legal. Says your husband was already married to another woman, a woman who's still alive." Maggie's blood turned to ice. "That's a lie." "Mr. Cooper says he's got papers. Wedding certificate from Denver, dated 10 years ago." The boy's voice shook. "He says if you don't leave the valley by spring thaw, he's going to publish everything. Tell the whole territory that Silas Brennan is a bigamist and his children are bastards." The world tilted. "That's impossible. Catherine weren't his first wife, according to Mr. Cooper." The boy thrust the paper toward her. "He sent the proof. Says you can check it yourself." Maggie took the paper. Her hands were steady. Her heart was not. She unfolded it. And there, in black and white, was a wedding certificate. Silas Jeremiah Brennan, married to Eleanor Rose Whitmore, October 15th, 1865. 13 years ago. No record of death. No record of divorce. "That's all I know, ma'am." The boy was backing toward his horse. "Mr. Cooper says he'll be in touch." He rode away. Maggie stood frozen on the porch, the paper trembling in her hands. Behind her she heard footsteps. Heard Silas's voice, weak but urgent. "Maggie, what is it? What did he say?" She turned. Silas was leaning on Samuel, his face gray with pain and effort, his broken leg dragging uselessly. "Who is Eleanor Whitmore?" The color drained from Silas's face. "How do you know that name? Answer me." "Maggie." "Who is she, Silas?" The silence stretched between them like a chasm. And then Silas said the words that shattered everything. "She was my wife, my first wife, the one I married before Catherine." Maggie felt the ground shift beneath her feet. "Is she dead?" Silas's jaw worked. "I don't know." "You don't know if your first wife is dead?" "I haven't seen her in 12 years. She left. Just disappeared one night. I looked for her. For months. Never found her." "Did you divorce her?" "I tried. The papers, the lawyers, nothing ever came through. And then I met Catherine, and I thought I assumed..." "You assumed." "Eleanor had been gone for 3 years. No word. No trace. The lawyer said she was legally dead. Said I was free to remarry." "But she wasn't dead." "I don't know." Silas's voice cracked. "I don't know, Maggie. I swear. I thought I believed..." "If she's alive, then your marriage to Catherine wasn't legal." "I know. And the children." "I know. And us." "Maggie, please." "You lied to me." Her voice came out flat, hollow. "You stood in front of a preacher, and you married me, and you never said a word." "I didn't know." You knew enough. She held up the paper. You knew there was a chance, and you said nothing. Silas reached for her. Don't. She stepped back. Don't touch me. Maggie, I can explain. Can you explain why you let me walk into this? Why you let me love your children? Love you build a life here? Her voice broke. Can you explain why you let me believe I had a home when the whole time everything could be torn apart by a single piece of paper? Silas had no answer. Maggie looked at the certificate in her hands, at the name of a woman she'd never met, at the lie that had been hiding underneath everything she thought she knew. I need time, she said finally. I need to think. Maggie, don't follow me. She walked away, into the snow, into the silence, into a future she couldn't see anymore. And behind her, Silas Brennan watched the woman he loved disappear into the white, knowing that everything he'd built was crumbling to dust. Maggie walked until her legs gave out. She collapsed in the snow at the edge of the valley, her breath coming in ragged gasps, the paper still clutched in her frozen fingers. Eleanor Rose Whitmore. A wife Silas had never mentioned. A marriage that might still be valid. A lie that had been hiding underneath everything. She wanted to scream, wanted to tear the paper into pieces, wanted to run so far that nobody would ever find her. But she couldn't, because 6 children were waiting in that house. 6 children who called her mama now. 6 children who had nothing to do with their father's past and everything to lose from his mistakes. Damn you, Silas Brennan, she whispered. Damn you for making me love them. The cold was seeping through her coat. Her fingers were going numb. She should go back. Should face this like she faced everything else. But not yet. Not until she figured out what she was going to do. Footsteps behind her. Mrs. Brennan. She turned. Samuel stood there, breath fogging in the cold, his father's coat wrapped around his thin shoulders. Go back inside. No. Samuel. I said no. He moved closer, stopped a few feet away. I heard everything. Pa told me the rest. Then you know why I need to be alone. I know why you think you need to be alone. That ain't the same thing. Maggie stared at him. This boy who'd hated her a month ago, who'd called her a replacement, who'd stood in front of Wade Cooper and declared her family. Eleanor Whitmore, she said flatly. You ever hear that name before tonight? Samuel hesitated. Once, when I was little, I heard Pa and Mama arguing about her. What did they say? Mama was crying. Said something about how Pa should have told her before they got married. Pa said it didn't matter because Eleanor was gone and she was never coming back. But he didn't know that for sure. No. Samuel's voice was quiet. I guess he didn't. The wind picked up, biting through Maggie's coat. Your mother? She said slowly. Did she forgive him? I don't know. They never talked about it again, at least not where I could hear. Samuel shifted his weight. But they stayed together, had more babies, built a life. So I reckon she did. Eventually. That don't make it right. No, it don't. Samuel moved closer. But it makes it real. People ain't perfect, Mrs. Brennan. They make mistakes. They hide things. They do stupid, cowardly stuff because they're scared of losing what they love. Maggie looked at him. When did you get so wise? I read a lot of books. Books don't teach you this. No. Losing my mama did. His voice cracked. I spent 2 years hating my pa for not saving her, for not being there when she needed him, for bringing you here like she could be replaced. Samuel, let me finish. He took a breath. I hated him because it was easier than hating God, or hating fate, or hating myself for being too young to do anything. And then you came. And I hated you too. Because you were alive and she wasn't. I understand. But here's the thing. Samuel's eyes met hers. Hating didn't bring her back. Didn't change nothing. Just made me miserable and made Pa more miserable, and made everyone around me suffer for something they couldn't control. He stepped closer. Pa made a mistake. A big one. He should have told you about Eleanor. Should have told Mama. Should have done a lot of things differently. His voice hardened. But he didn't do it to hurt you. He did it because he was scared. Because he wanted a family so bad he was willing to pretend the past didn't exist. That ain't an excuse. No. But it's a reason. Samuel held out his hand. Come back inside. Talk to him. Hear his side. And then if you still want to leave... His voice broke. If you still want to leave, I won't stop you. None of us will. Maggie looked at his hand. At this boy who'd grown into something remarkable despite everything the world had thrown at him. You really think I should stay? I think you should listen. The rest is up to you. She took his hand. Let him pull her to her feet. One conversation, she said. That's all I'm promising. That's all I'm asking. They walked back together. Silas was waiting on the porch. Agnes had helped him into a chair, wrapped blankets around his broken leg. His face was gray with pain and something deeper. Fear. Maggie. Inside. Now. We're not having this conversation where everyone can hear. She pushed past him into the house. Agnes took the children upstairs. Maggie heard Sarah protesting, heard James crying, heard Mary asking what was happening over and over until the nursery door closed and cut off the sound. Then it was just the two of them. Silas in his chair, Maggie standing across the room. The silence between them was deafening. Talk, Maggie said. Silas closed his eyes. I was 22 when I met Eleanor. Young, stupid. Thought I knew everything. Where? Denver. She was a singer at one of the fancy hotels. Beautiful, the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. His voice was distant, remembering. We got married 3 months after we met. My father was furious, said she was trouble, said I was throwing my life away. Was he right? He was right about a lot of things. Silas opened his eyes. Eleanor wasn't who I thought she was. The woman I fell in love with, she didn't exist. She was playing a part, saying what I wanted to hear. What happened? For a while, nothing. We moved to the valley. She hated it. Too isolated, too quiet. No parties, no music, no audience. He shifted in the chair, winced. She started disappearing. At first, just for a few hours, then overnight, then for days at a time. She'd come back with stories about visiting friends in town, but I knew she was lying. Did you confront her? Once. She laughed at me, said I was boring, said she'd made a mistake marrying a rancher when she could have had a senator or a railroad baron. His jaw tightened. Said she'd never wanted children, never wanted this life, never wanted me. And then she left. One night while I was checking the cattle, took everything valuable she could carry and rode off without a word. Just like that. Just like that. No note, no goodbye. Nothing. Silas's hands were shaking. I looked for her. For months. Hired detectives. Sent letters to every town between here and California. Nobody had seen her. Nobody knew where she'd gone. So you assumed she was dead. The lawyer said I had grounds for abandonment. Said after 3 years with no contact I could petition for dissolution. Said, his voice cracked. Said the marriage was effectively over even if she was still alive. Did you get the dissolution? I filed the papers. The court approved them. At least I thought they did. Maggie's eyes narrowed. What do you mean you thought they did? Silas met her gaze. The papers came back signed and sealed. I have them in my study. But if Cooper has proof that Eleanor is still alive, if she's claiming the marriage was never dissolved, then someone forged those papers. Or someone lied. Who? Silas was quiet for a long moment. There was a lawyer in Denver, Edmund Shaw. He handled everything. I never met him in person, just sent money and received documents. You think he cheated you? I think Wade Cooper is desperate, and desperate men do desperate things. Silas leaned forward. Maggie, I swear to you, I believed I was free to marry. When I met Catherine, when I married you, I believed the past was settled. But you didn't tell me. You didn't tell Catherine. Because I was ashamed. His voice broke. Ashamed that I'd been such a fool. Ashamed that I'd married a woman who despised me. Ashamed that my first attempt at love was such a disaster. He looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. I should have told you. I know that now. But I was terrified. Terrified that if you knew about Eleanor, you'd see me different. You'd think I was damaged. Used up. Not worth the trouble. So instead, you let me find out from Wade Cooper. I never thought he'd dig that deep. Never thought anyone would. That ain't good enough. I know. Silas's voice was barely a whisper. I know it ain't. And I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm asking for it anyway. Because I love you. Because those children love you. Because whatever I did in the past, what we have now is real. Maggie stood frozen. Everything in her wanted to believe him. Wanted to take him at his word and move forward and pretend this had never happened. But she couldn't. Not without knowing the truth. We need to find Eleanor Whitmore. Silas stared at her. What? If she's alive, if the marriage was never dissolved, then I need to know. We all need to know. Maggie's voice hardened. And if Cooper forged those papers, if he's using lies to tear this family apart, then we need proof. How are we supposed to find a woman who's been missing for 12 years? The same way Cooper found this. She held up the certificate. Money. Detectives. Whatever it takes. The passes are closed until spring. Then we wait until spring, and when they open, we find the truth. Silas looked at her like she'd grown a second head. You're not leaving. I didn't say that. But you're not. I'm not making any decisions until I know what's real and what's Cooper's lies. Maggie crossed her arms. You want my forgiveness? Earn it. Find Eleanor. Prove your marriage was dissolved. Give me something I can believe in. And if it wasn't, if the papers were forged, then we figure out what to do next, together. Silas's breath caught. You'd stay even if... I'd stay for those children. I made them a promise. Her voice softened, just a fraction. And I'd stay for you. If you give me a reason. I'll find her. Silas's voice was fierce now, desperate. I'll prove everything. Don't promise. Just do it. She turned toward the door. Maggie? She stopped. Thank you for not giving up on me. I ain't doing this for you. I'm doing it for them. But they both knew that wasn't entirely true. The winter stretched on. Silas's leg healed slowly. He was up on crutches by February, walking with a cane by March. The limp would probably be permanent, Agnes said, a reminder of what Cooper had taken from him. But he was alive. That was what mattered. The children noticed the tension between Maggie and Silas. How could they not? The careful distance, the polite conversations that never went deeper than weather and chores. The way Maggie slept in her own room, now door-locked alone. Mary asked about it once. Are you and Papa fighting? We're working through something, that's all. Is it bad? I don't know yet, sweetheart, but I promise I'll tell you when I do. Samuel knew more than the others, kept it to himself, watched Maggie with worried eyes that reminded her too much of his father. Thomas started having nightmares again. William got into 3 fights with the ranch hand's sons. Sarah went back to putting snakes in people's beds. Only James seemed unaffected. He toddled around the house oblivious to the undercurrents, calling Maggie Mama and Silas Papa, and demanding cookies at every opportunity. He was the brightest spot in a dark winter. And then in late March, the passes finally opened. Silas sent riders out immediately. Letters to lawyers, inquiries to detectives, requests for records from courthouses across 3 territories. The waiting was agony. 2 weeks. 3. A month. And then, on a cold April morning, a rider came through the pass with news that changed everything. We found her. Silas had assembled everyone in the main room: Maggie, Agnes, Samuel, even Thomas, who was old enough to understand what was at stake. Eleanor Whitmore is alive, living in San Francisco under a different name. Maggie's heart stopped. She's alive. Yes, ma'am, but there's more. The rider, a grizzled detective named Marcus Burke, pulled papers from his satchel. Mrs. Whitmore, or Mrs. Harrison, as she calls herself now, has been married 3 times since she left Mr. Brennan. Each marriage ended when the husband discovered she'd lied about her past. 3 times. Silas's voice was strangled. Yes, sir. And here's the interesting part. Burke spread papers on the table. I found records of her first divorce, filed in Nevada 6 months after she left you. She claimed abandonment, said you'd thrown her out. That's a lie. I know, but the court believed her, granted the divorce, which means the dissolution papers I received were real. Silas grabbed the documents. She divorced me. I didn't need to file anything. Correct. Your marriage to Catherine Brennan was entirely legal. So is your current marriage. Maggie couldn't breathe. Then what Cooper showed me was a copy of the original marriage certificate, valid at the time it was signed but superseded by the Nevada divorce. Burke's expression darkened. Cooper must have found the marriage record without finding the divorce, or he found both and chose to hide one. He lied. He manipulated the truth, which legally speaking amounts to the same thing. Silas was on his feet, ignoring the pain in his leg. We can prove this. In court. I have certified copies of every document. The marriage, the divorce, Mrs. Whitmore's subsequent marriages. Everything. Burke smiled grimly. Wade Cooper built his case on a foundation of sand, and I just kicked it out from under him. The relief that flooded through Maggie was overwhelming. She grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. It's over. The legal threat is over. Burke's expression sobered. But Cooper himself is still out there, and based on what I've learned, he's not the type to accept defeat gracefully. What do you mean? I mean he's been building something, Mrs. Brennan, allies, resources, men willing to do his dirty work. Burke leaned forward. I think the marriage certificate was just the opening shot. He's got something bigger planned. Like what? I don't know yet, but I'd recommend. The door burst open. One of the ranch hands stumbled in face white with terror. Boss, you need to come outside, now. What is it? Riders. Coming up the pass. At least 30 of them. Silas's face went hard. Cooper. Can't tell yet, but they ain't friendly. Maggie was already moving toward the window. She could see them now, a dark line of men cresting the ridge silhouetted against the morning sky. Get the children upstairs, she said to Agnes. Lock them in the nursery. Don't open the door for anyone. Maggie. Go, now. Agnes gathered the children, herding them toward the stairs. Mary was crying. Sarah was demanding to know what was happening. Samuel tried to stay behind. I can fight. Get your brothers and sisters upstairs. Protect them. That's your job right now. Samuel's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Yes, ma'am. He ran. Maggie turned to Silas. How many men do we have? 20 who can fight. Maybe 25 if we count the older hands. Against 30? Maybe more. Burke said at least 30. We're outnumbered. Wouldn't be the first time. Silas grabbed his rifle from the mantel, checked the chamber. Stay inside. he said. Like hell. Maggie, I ain't hiding while you fight for our family. We do this together, or we don't do it at all. Silas stared at her. Then something shifted in his expression, something like pride. Together, then. They walked out onto the porch side by side. The riders had reached the valley floor now. 32 of them, Maggie counted. Armed. Dangerous. And at the front, on a pale horse, sat Wade Cooper. He'd come himself this time. Silas Brennan. His voice carried across the distance. I gave you a chance to surrender peacefully. You refused. I refused to give you my wife. There's a difference. Your wife? Cooper laughed. You don't have a wife, Brennan. You have a stolen woman and a stack of fraudulent papers. Actually, Maggie stepped forward, raising her voice. We have certified copies of Eleanor Whitmore's divorce decree, filed in Nevada, 6 months after she left. Cooper's face flickered, just for a second. You're bluffing. Am I? Maggie held up the papers. I got documents from every courthouse between here and San Francisco. Your case is garbage, Cooper. Built on half-truths and deliberate omissions. It doesn't matter. I think it does. No. Cooper's voice dropped low. Dangerous. Because I'm not here to argue legal technicalities. I'm here to take what's mine. He raised his hand. His men drew their weapons. Last chance, Brennan. Give me the woman. Give me the valley. Or we take both by force. Silas didn't flinch. You want this valley? Come and get it. For a moment nobody moved. Then Cooper smiled. Kill them all. The first shot cracked across the valley. Maggie dove behind a water trough, bullets splintering the wood above her head. She could hear Silas shouting orders, could hear the ranch hands returning fire, could hear the thunder of hooves as Cooper's men charged toward the house. She raised her pistol. Fired. One of Cooper's men fell from his saddle. Maggie, get inside. Not a chance. She fired again. Another hit. But there were too many. For every man she dropped, 3 more pressed forward. This was it. This was how it ended. Everything she'd built, everything she'd fought for. Then she heard it. Hoofbeats. Coming from behind. She turned. Riders were pouring through the eastern pass. Dozens of them. 50 at least. Armed and organized and wearing the badges of territorial marshals. At the front, on a black stallion, rode Judge Morrison. Wade Cooper. His voice boomed across the valley. You are under arrest for fraud, attempted kidnapping, assault, and conspiracy to commit murder. Drop your weapons or be cut down where you stand. Cooper's men hesitated, looked at their leader, looked at the wall of marshals bearing down on them, started dropping their guns. No. Cooper's face twisted with rage. No, we fight we. But nobody was listening anymore. One by one, his men surrendered, raising their hands, abandoning the man who'd brought them here. Until only Cooper remained. He sat alone on his pale horse, surrounded by enemies, his grand plans crumbling to dust around him. Maggie stepped forward. It's over, Wade. His eyes found hers. The hatred in them was absolute. This ain't over. I'll get out. I'll come back. You'll rot in prison for the rest of your miserable life. Judge Morrison's voice was cold. I've got witnesses, documents, testimony from your own men. You're finished, Cooper. For a moment, Maggie thought Cooper would surrender. Then his hand moved toward his pistol. Wade, don't. The shot rang out. But it didn't come from Cooper. Silas had fired first. Cooper fell from his horse, clutching his shoulder, screaming in pain and rage and disbelief. Silas lowered his rifle. That's for trying to kill my family, he said quietly. And that's more mercy than you deserve. The marshals moved in, bound Cooper's wounds, dragged him away in chains, And just like that, it was over. The aftermath took hours. Statements to give, documents to verify, wounded men to tend to. But finally, as the sun began to set, Maggie found herself alone with Silas on the porch. He was leaning on his cane watching the marshals ride away with Cooper and his men. "It's done," he said. "Is it so? Cooper's going to prison. The marriage is proven legal. The children are safe." He turned to look at her. "What more is there?" Maggie was quiet for a long moment. "You asked me once if I would stay," she said finally. "If everything turned out to be true, if the marriage was valid, if Cooper was defeated, would I stay?" "I remember." "I never gave you an answer." Silas's breath caught. "And now?" Maggie looked at him, at this man who'd made mistakes, who'd kept secrets, who'd nearly destroyed everything with his fear, but also at the man who'd fought for her, protected her, loved her in his own broken, imperfect way. "I'm staying." Silas's eyes filled with tears. "Maggie, I'm staying because those children are mine now, because this valley is my home, because somewhere along the way I stopped running from my past and started building a future." She stepped closer. "And I'm staying because I love you. God help me despite everything, I love you." Silas pulled her into his arms. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make this right." "You better." He kissed her then. Really kissed her. The way he should have kissed her that first night they were married. When they finally broke apart, the sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the valley in shades of gold and crimson. "There's something I need to do," Silas said. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small box. "This was my grandmother's. She came over from Ireland with nothing but the clothes on her back and this ring. She gave it to my grandfather the day they got married. Told him it wasn't the gold that made it valuable, it was the promise it represented." He opened the box. Inside was a simple gold band, worn smooth with age. "I should have done this right the first time. Should have given you a proper proposal, a proper wedding, a proper start." He looked at her with eyes full of love and hope, and the bone-deep certainty of a man who'd finally found what he'd been searching for. "Margaret Ellen Dawson Brennan, will you marry me for real this time? Not an arrangement, not a bargain, just two people choosing each other." Maggie looked at the ring, at Silas, at the house behind them, where 6 children were probably watching from the windows. "Yes," she said, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. The wedding was held that summer. The whole valley turned out. Workers and their families, neighbors from across the mountains. Judge Morrison himself performed the ceremony. Samuel gave Maggie away, walking her down the aisle with the solemn pride of a boy who'd become a man. Thomas served as ring-bearer. William managed not to destroy anything for a full 3 hours. Mary and Sarah threw flowers with more enthusiasm than accuracy. And James, sweet, impossible. James shouted, "Mama pretty," at the top of his lungs in the middle of the vows, making everyone laugh through their tears. That night, after the celebrating was done and the children were asleep, Maggie stood on the porch with her husband, her real husband now, in every way that mattered. "Happy?" Silas asked. "More than I ever thought I could be." "Any regrets?" Maggie thought about it, about everything that had brought her here, her father's death, Wade Cooper's threats, the desperate bargain she'd made with a stranger in a snowstorm. "Not one," she said. Silas pulled her close. "Your father would be proud of you." "I know." Maggie smiled. "I'm keeping my promise to him, every day." "What promise?" "He made me swear I wouldn't let your children forget how to laugh." She looked up at her husband. "I think I'm doing okay." "You're doing more than okay. You're doing miracles." They stood together in the starlight, watching over the valley that had become their home. And somewhere Maggie knew her father was watching too, smiling, at peace, because his brave girl had finally found where she belonged. The Brennan family had started with a desperate bargain and a handful of broken people. They'd survived grief and betrayal, and enemies who wanted to destroy them. They'd learned that love wasn't about being perfect, it was about showing up, again and again, no matter how hard it got. Margaret Ellen Brennan had come to this valley with nothing but a borrowed dress and a stubborn heart. She was leaving it with everything that mattered: a husband who loved her, 6 children who called her mama, a home that no one could ever take away, and a future as wide and bright as the Wyoming sky. She'd stopped surviving and started living, and she never looked back.